Well, we move on to the other big story that took place today and is also a big debate tonight. This is about the ICICI Bank Videocon loan scandal. Today, the CBI finally moved to file an FIR to book Chanda Kochhar, one of the biggest names in the Indian banking industry, who till a few months ago, till summer this last year actually, was the chief of ICICI Bank. Not just that, the CBI has also booked the Videocon chief, Dhoot. The allegation is that there was a quid pro quo. Remember, the prelim inquiry was registered several months ago, so the CBI has taken its own time to investigate, slowly go through the details of this case before they decided that yes, now there is enough evidence that they have to at least register a final FIR. The investigation, full-fledged investigation, only begins now. Not only Chanda Kochhar, her husband, and Venugopal Dhoot, there are several other big names who are also under the scanner, purely because these are the names that sat on the panels when loans were being given by ICICI Bank to the Videocon group at a time where the Videocon group was doing business and transactional deals with Chanda Kochhar's husband. We understand even KV Kamath may at one point be questioned, though he has not been named as an accused in the FIR so far. Now let me try and break it down for you. It's an extremely complex structure of transactions that took place between basically two businessmen, which is Deepak Kochhar, the husband of Chanda Kochhar, and Venugopal Dhoot, and the companies that they had set up. It starts with transactions that began in December 2008. That is when Deepak Kochhar and Venugopal Dhoot set up this new company called New Power Renewables. Venugopal Dhoot had 50%, that's half of the stake. The rest of it was held by Pacific Capital and the Kochhar family. A month later, just 1 month after they set this up, Venugopal Dhoot retired as a director of New Power and transferred his shares, roughly 25,000 shares, for about 2.5 lakh rupees to the Kochhars. Then in March 2010, New Power got a loan of 64 crore rupees from a company called Supreme Energy Private. Now you say, who is Supreme Energy Private? Also named in the FIR right now. Well, it was a company where 99% stake was actually held by Venugopal Dhoot. Effectively, a company owned by Venugopal Dhoot gave 64 crores rather, to Kochhar's company. Now, through share transfer, Supreme Energy got 94% stake in New Power. So, for this money, 64 crore that they gave, they got 94% stake. Rest little bit amount for 4.5% was left with the Kochhars. 8 months later, in November 2010, Venugopal Dhoot transferred his entire stake holding to his associate Mahesh Chandra Punglia. Now, between September 2012 and April 2013, this man transferred that entire shareholding to a third new company called Pinnacle Energy. Now, who is Pinnacle Energy? Well, the managing trustee there was none other than Deepak Kochhar. This transfer took place for 9 lakh rupees. So, effectively, a 64 crore rupee loan that was given, shares were transferred, they went round in a circle and were bought back by Deepak Kochhar for only 9 lakh rupees. This is what we understand from our sources has been the basis of the CBI investigation. At this point of time, during this period, Venugopal Dhoot's company got loans from ICICI Bank. They got 3,250 crore worth of loan in 2012, which was supposed to be a bigger part of a 40,000 crore loan package. And then this company, which was debt-ridden already but was still given more loans, couldn't repay those loans, and this loan was termed as an NPA, non-performing asset. So the question is that the CBI will now look at, did Chanda Kochhar, or during her time, did ICICI Bank give a 3,250 crore loan to Venugopal Dhoot's company, which was under debt? And as a favor, did Chanda Kochhar's husband gets 64 crore from Venugopal Dhoot. This is the corporate bank nexus that is being investigated. This is not the only one. Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, Jatin Mehta, and so many more. This pattern has been the same. Somebody within the bank helping these corporates out. It's not like you and I can go and get a loan at our own demands and then get away without paying those loans. Tonight, we are going to again, one more time, put the spotlight on this corporate bank nexus and how it is looting us. Looting the banking system for which the taxpayers at the end of the day, in one way or the other, have to pay up. Let's say good evening to our panelists who will help us understand what are the checks and balances in the banking system. Ravinder Gupta, Joint General Secretary for All India Banking Association. Charan Singh, he is the CEO of eGrow Foundation. Rajiv Mishra, a citizen voice and activist with us this evening. Professor Aman Agarwal, Director for Indian Institute of Finance, and Ved Chen, former VP of ASSOCHAM, with us. And let me start with Mr. Ravinder Gupta. Mr. Gupta, help us understand, when there are loans which are this huge in size, what is the process within a bank? And now we are not just talking about public sector banks. This is a private bank where one believes there will be more accountability. How does it work? How does Venugopal Dhoot's company get 3,200 crore rupees? What would be the checks and balances, Mr. Gupta, for this process?
In fact, it is a large ticket loan. It was given to the Videocon. You just said it is a part of 40,000 crore loan given to the Videocon. This is 3,250 crore. It was a part of this ICICI has given on their behalf. In fact, this loan gone bad. This is a loan which is not given by one person. In fact, these loans are assessed and sanctioned by the boards. And this loan at that time in the year 2012 was given by the board. In that board, that Mrs. Chanda Kochhar was also the CEO. And in fact, due diligence and the appraisal has to be done at that time. And in fact, there is a long process of sanctioning such kind of loans. And in fact, in the ICICI board, if you see the constitution, basically ICICI Bank is a private bank. This has been formed under this private role. In this 74 of the percent equity has been held by the foreign FIs, FDIs and the other investments. In fact, only 26% of this equity is in the hands of the local residents. And according to the equity side, the board of directors are also there. And this is the process of sanctioning the loans in the banking sector. In fact, and at the time of this thing, this has also been ascertained that loans from to the any of the relative should not be sanctioned, as well as there should not be any conflict of interest while sanctioning the loan at the board level. So this is a huge loan, but see, the branches do the appraisal and pre-sanction survey and assessment reports, and so many other things are taken at the time of this sanction of the loan. All parameters are examined at the board level when this large loans are given to the corporates.
Then what really goes on? That should ideally be the process. But what's really going on, Mr. Charan Singh? What do you think? For example, would Chanda Kochhar be in the know as the bank chief that such a loan is being processed and given to Videocon? Would the people who are sitting on the panel, for example, if KV Kamath was on the panel, or if Sandeep Bakshi, who's current chief of ICICI, was on the panel, and they were deciding whether Videocon should get thousands of crores from the bank, would they know that he is in business with Chanda Kochhar's husband?
Look, I have done some research on these issues, and I am of the view that yes, as the previous speaker was mentioning, the board approves all the loans and therefore they undergo the scrutiny. But what I'm trying to say is, banking industry, money as such, is highly fungible. It is very important whosoever is at the helm of affairs, and I'll come to it, private or public sector bank, whosoever is at the helm of affairs, it's very essential that the checks and balances are very strongly imposed there. I would also like to mention a very long tenure, any tenure of more than 2 years, maximum 3 years, is not a safe tenure because a nexus would easily develop between a banker and an industry. Now, when it comes to the board, actually there is a management committee through which all these proposals go, and then it comes to the board. But if the managing director is very strong and has been there for a very long time and has chosen handpicked people to be on the board as well as handpicked people to be on the management committee where all these loans are scrutinized, then it is very much possible that this sort of a nexus would happen and the board members would easily succumb to the proposal which is coming from the MD. Also, I would like to mention that given the compensation for these board members, sometimes the board members can be silenced, sometimes they can be bought, sometimes they are pretty quiet because they just want to be on the board. And therefore, I say once again that having a MD and a CEO for such a long time is not very safe. I would also like to mention two things here. One is when the chairman and MD are separate positions, the power that is concentrated in the MD's hand is very, very immense. Such large powers, whereas a chairman is generally a non-executive chairman, he has hardly any powers. The check and balance is not existing there. So it is important that the power is shared. There is also another point which I want to make, and that is the board members and the executive directors, they should be also equally held responsible. How did this loan get through? It's very difficult to imagine that the information which the whistleblower had was not available at the level of senior officials in the bank.
Right.
So if not EDs, at least the general managers, they were all in knowledge of what is going on and the nexus that is taking place there. So I think it's very important to look into all this. This is the first time this has happened in a big way in the private sector. Public sector has been under severe scrutiny, the first time happening in the private sector, and I think we will have to go deep into what is happening here. Now the CBI is investing it, and I think private sector banks should also be brought under CVO so that their accounts are scrutinized and people held accountable at various levels, not just the MD, the board members, members of the managing committee, the executive directors, and also the general managers. If I have time, I would like to make just one final point.
I'll just come back to you.
In this context,
Mr. Singh, I'll come back to you for sure.
And the chartered accountants.
Because a few of the points that you raised, Mr. Singh, I want to address them one by one. So allow me to come in right now and I'll come back to you for your last point. But for the angle that you mentioned, the point that you mentioned about the longer tenures of those who are at the helm, those who are in decision-making posts, and is not advisable. Mr. Vedjan, would you agree? I mean, there is no denying that there is a banking corporate India Inc. nexus. Look at the way the long rope was given to Vijay Mallya. Look at the way long rope was given in the Nirav Modi case. Look at the state of affairs in IL&FS today and where that has landed. How do we break this? Is this one of those steps that we must take to ensure that those who are at the helm aren't there for too long to establish these relationships?
I do appreciate the comments and the suggestion from my co-panelist that the longer tenure do create some time of a nexus on this issue. But I have a larger issue to address. There are two issues which we need to make distinction. A case where there is a criminal conspiracy, what we call quid pro quo, that I sanction you loan and you give me some money or some favor to me. And there is another case which is a case where there is a negligence, where a person was supposed to be vigilant and he has failed to discharge the duty. So we need to make a distinction in the two types of the issues. The issue which is presently being discussed under today's development says that there was a nexus and there was a conspiracy between the two. It was a quid pro quo, and that's why it has happened. and probably this information is not in public domain, that whether the loan which was sanctioned was as per the norm, or there was a violation in the norm, or there was something done wrong in the sanctioning of that loan. See, in the hindsight, what can be very wise that the loan has gone NPA, and that's why this was a bad loan, and this was a sanction was bad. So we need to first make out a distinction whether the sanctioning of the loan itself was not as per the norms, and whether there was any extra favor given at the time when the loan was sanctioned. That's the second part, because that's an issue. Because in that, that issue will decide whether the other person sitting on the board or on the management committee sanctioning the loan, whether they held to be held guilty, or whether they held to be held liable for this type of work. Because the one part which is there, that whether there is a quid pro quo, there can't be two opinions. Yes, it is a conspiracy, and that has led to this trouble.
Okay,
and
so allow me to just,
if there is
Mr.
a
Jain,
conspiracy, then one need to have
Mr. Jain, I have an answer for that. Of course, what I'm going to read out right now is from the FIR, since the investigation is still on. But I'm going to read out what the CBI FIR says for the very point that you have raised. And it says, further, a loan was sanctioned to VIL for refinancing the existing loans of the company. These loans were sanctioned in violation of the credit policy of the bank during the relevant period. These loans amounting to 575 crore were sanctioned on various dates by various committees having senior officials of ICICI Bank as members, namely Sandeep Bakshi, K. Ram Kumar, Sanjoy Chatterjee, N.S. Kannan, Zareen Daruwala, Rajiv Sabharwal, K.V. Kamath, and of course Homi Khosrokan. So the CBI FIR right now, and the CBI is investigating the line that when this loan was sanctioned, it was against that time's credit policy. That's to answer one aspect of what you raised. Of course, pending investigation, we can't really decide whether there was a wrongdoing. The other aspect, of course, I wanted to hear from you on the quid pro quo, because that's a tough one to decide. Did these people know that the loan was being given while, Chanda Kochhar's husband was receiving some favors from Venugopal Dhoot? Is a different matter altogether. Go ahead now, please. Finish your other point. Yes, Mr. Jain, I'm sorry I interrupted you. You can finish your point now. I just wanted to highlight this FIR part. Mr. Jain, can you hear me?
See, I hope
Yes,
you're
go
asking
ahead,
this
please.
question to me. I can hear you. I'm on the issue. See, yeah. See, the issue which I am debating it about, the presently FIR do indicate that yes, there was a quid pro quo, and that's why there has to be some action on that part. Now you have raised an issue whether the longer tenure and the nexus being created, and the few other examples like the Nirav Modi case and the Mallya case, etc. See, I believe each case stands on a different footing. Here is a case where there is a direct evidence that some money has passed on to a company which is owned by one of the relative of the CEO of the bank. In other cases, there is no such instances which have come to the notice whether there was a quid pro quo, or whether some money has passed or some favor has been passed on to. So because in the Mallya case as on date, I believe there can be a case of a negligence, etc. In the case of a Nirav Modi, there were a few employees with a particular branch that they were involved in some transaction which they have not reported to, and obviously they would have taken certain favors out of this. And there also there is not a involvement of the what we call at a CEO level, because one of the suggestions which what the co-panelist has given is that the longer tenure does create a problem where a nexus is created. But at the same time, if it is a career, the tenure is short, probably the experience and the growth which the bank expect may not be so coming. So to work out a very simple solution that the tenure be reduced to 2 to 3 years probably may not be the correct idea, or may not be a practical idea on this part. The idea is to how do we make a ensure internal control mechanism in a manner which ensure that these type of things do not happen. I see for that purpose we need to keep in mind that there is always a difference between a negligence and a fraud. So negligence you can take care by putting system in place. A fraud is a system where few minds come together for a criminal conspiracy. There only the stringent action, the quick action, and what we call exemplary punishment can only be a deterrent, because conspiracy can always be hedged upon, but the fear that you will be caught and there will be exemplary punishment and a quick punishment, that can deter the person to get involved in a criminal conspiracy.
Okay, point taken there. Let me take it across to Rajiv Mishra and ask him. Rajiv Mishra, the one argument is to say these are all different cases, so you can't really put them all together, bunch them up together. But the fact of the matter is that we are seeing a huge increase in bank frauds, at least bank frauds that are now being revealed and exposed. And almost every single case, it's one powerful entity, one powerful corporate that's getting some benefit and favors out of a bank, and they're getting a long rope from the bank, which the common man doesn't. It's a nexus that we can't deny.
तन्वी, सबसे पहले तो मैं आपको ये बताना चाहूँगा कि जब इस तरह के स्कैम हम लोगों के सामने आते हैं तो मुझे इस बात पर थोड़ा सा आश्चर्य होता है कि क्या यह वही देश है जहां हम 100 रुपए की चोरी करते हुए या पॉकेटमारी करते हुए लोगों को पकड़ करके भीड़ उनका जान ले लेती है, और उसी देश में हमारे टैक्स मनी को, हमारे जमा किए हुए पैसे को इतने बड़े पैमाने पर स्कैम कर दिया जाता है और हमारे यहां से एक बुलंद आवाज भी नहीं उठती है। और दूसरी बात, अभी जो जैन साहब बोल रहे थे, मैं उस पर अब आता हूं। तन्वी, आप एक चीज समझो कि बैंकिंग प्रोसीड्योर में बहुत क्लियर है कि कितना लोन अमाउंट होगा तो मैनेजर को पावर है, कितना लोन अमाउंट होगा तो जनरल मैनेजर को पावर है, कितना लोन अमाउंट होगा तो फिर बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर में जाता है। तो ये बहुत ही क्लियर कट वहां पर मैनेजमेंट है। ऐसी स्थिति में इतना बड़ा लोन अमाउंट 3250 करोड़ रुपए का लोन अमाउंट है, ये विदाउट मैनेजमेंट कमेटी के लोगों के इसमें इन्वॉल्व हुए, उसमें जो कुछ भी कमी आ रही है, जब तक मैनेजमेंट कमेटी से जुड़े लोग उसमें इन्वॉल्व नहीं है तब तक ये संभव नहीं है। दूसरी बात, एक बड़ी बात मैं तन्वी आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि जो मुझे जो जानकारी है एज पर मीडिया रिपोर्ट, उस हिसाब से शायद 2800 करोड़ रुपए का भुगतान अभी नहीं हुआ था। 350 करोड़ रुपए के भुगतान में ही 62 करोड़ रुपए का ट्रांजैक्शन सीईओ के रिलेटिव्स को जाता है, चाहे उनके हस्बैंड को, चाहे उनके ब्रदर इन लॉ, हस्बैंड के ब्रदर इन लॉ के कंपनी में जाए, लेकिन 62 करोड़ रुपए जाता है। इसका मतलब कि कमीशन का जो अमाउंट रहा है वो कितना बड़ा है और किस लेवल पर है। ऐसे में अगर ये 3200 करोड़ रुपए पूरे रिलीज हो जाते तो उससे चंदा कोचर के रिलेटिव्स को या उनके हस्बैंड को क्या प्राप्त होने वाला था, यह भी हम लोगों को अभी पता नहीं है। ऐसी स्थिति में मैं तन्वी केवल इतना आपको बोलता हूं कि ये जितने भी बैंकर्स के बड़े लेवल के जो पदाधिकारी हैं वो इस बात को ढकने में जुटे हैं कि नहीं, इसमें बैंक के मैनेजमेंट की कोई कमी नहीं है। जबकि मैं आपको बता दूं, जितने भी बड़े फ्रॉड्स, जितने भी बड़े स्कैम बैंक्स में हुए हैं, उसमें सबसे बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट रोल अगर कहीं है तो वो मैनेजमेंट कमेटी का है। और आपको मैं एक बात और बता दूं तन्वी, कि जिस तरीके से आज के समय में ये बैंक स्कैम सामने आ रहे हैं, अब तो हम जैसे लोग यही चाहेंगे कि भाई इंडिविजुअल लेवल पर जो 5 करोड़ से ज्यादा का एनपीए जिसके ऊपर है, आप उसके नाम को डिक्लेयर कीजिए, और कंपनी लेवल पर जिसके ऊपर 50 करोड़ से ज्यादा का एनपीए है उसका नाम आप डिक्लेयर कीजिए। अगर बैंकिंग प्रणाली में आप में ट्रांसपेरेंसी है तो सारे बैंक वैसे लोगों का नाम तुरंत, उस कंपनी का नाम जिसने 50 करोड़ रुपए से ज्यादा का एनपीए कर रखा है और वो व्यक्ति जिसने 5 करोड़ से ज्यादा एनपीए कर रखा है, उसका नाम आप तुरंत डिक्लेयर कीजिए, जिससे हमको पता लगे कि हमारे पैसे की लूट किन किन लोगों ने की है और वो आज किस स्टेटस में रह रहे हैं। इतना तो कम से कम हमको जानने का अधिकार है। आज मैं बता रहा हूं तन्वी आपको, ये जो चीजें चल रही है ना, मतलब ये कि आपको एक छोटा सा एक पंक्ति में बोलता हूं कि 100 रुपए के चोर को चोर और करोड़ों रुपए के चोर को साहूकार बोला जा रहा है, एक खूनी को खूनी और 100 खूनी को मुनी बोला जा रहा है। ये देश में ये सिद्धांत चल रहा है। मैं कहता हूं कि सबसे पहले इतने बड़े फाइनेंशियल स्कैम है, ये देश की रीढ़ को तोड़ने वाले, बोन को तोड़ने वाले फाइनेंशियल स्कैम है। ये देशद्रोह है तन्वी, मेरी नजर में ये देशद्रोह है। इतने बड़े स्कैम जो हैं, ये मेरे देश के साथ गद्दारी है, मेरे देश की जनता के साथ गद्दारी। हम लोग जो रह रहे हैं हमारे साथ गद्दारी है। ये हमारे पैसे को आपको इस तरह से लुटाने का कोई हक नहीं है, और लोग आराम से लेकर के चले जा रहे हैं, अपना पासपोर्ट कैंसिल करा ले रहे हैं, अपना नागरिकता समाप्त कर ले रहे हैं। ये सारी फैसिलिटी हम अवेलेबल करा रहे हैं।
जी।
और एक गरीब को लोन लेने के लिए क्या परेशानी है आप
और फिर क्या होता है मिश्रा जी, और फिर क्या होता है जब ये करोड़ों का पैसा लेके चले जाते हैं और गायब हो जाते हैं, फिर गवर्नमेंट सरकार को कोई नई टेक्निक अपनानी पड़ती है पैसा वापस लाने की बैंक में। फिर एक डिमोनेटाइजेशन जैसी चीज होगी कि ताकि बैंकों के पास कुछ पैसा आए ताकि आगे बिजनेस हो सके।
तो एट द एंड ऑफ द डे हमसे वसूला जाता है।
एट द एंड ऑफ द डे टैक्स पेयर को, आम आदमी को इसका भुगतान करना पड़ता है, बिकॉज ये नेक्सस को हम तोड़ने में कामयाब नहीं रह रहे और कोई करना भी नहीं चाहता। द इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट दैट Rajiv Mishra raised about accountability and transparency, Professor Agarwal, but look at what is happening even today when the CVC, when the Vigilance Commission wants to look at who these defaulters are, RBI won't even tell them. The central bank is refusing to give the defaulters list to even the CVC. That's the level of opaqueness we are talking about. Now, the same RBI cries about more control for public banks so they can stop these frauds, but now it's happening in private sector banks also.
I agree with you, Tanvi. You see, first of all, when both the issues are being raised about so many members' names being in the list of suspicion of certain kinds of frauds being done, whether it is done on a known basis or unknown basis, it is clear that there is an evasion of funds which has taken place from the banking segment on some nexus which has been there. Please understand that the banking internationally and within the country has been very much immune to the fact that any kind of a fraud would take place and the RBI and the governments would waive them off. You will be surprised to learn about 1 lakh of crores of rupees per year was being waived off by Government of India and the RBI for the last 18 years on a year-to-year basis. So despite our GDP growth, we had an absorption capacity of about 1 lakh crore being waived off through this mechanism. Now, to say that it is completely opaque or the CVC asking for it is fine, but to say that it is opaque is wrong, because I remember way back in 97, 98, there was the Bankers Association which brought out a huge book which was there before the member parliaments, which was there before the journalists, which was there before the bankers, which listed the people who had been defaulting on loans, because there was computerization which was being introduced on the fact that the bank employees are inefficient and they are creating losses for the banks. So the bank employee associations brought out this book, Bankers Association brought out this book to brief out that it is not us which is creating the losses, but it is these defaulters of large loans which have been taken by corporate sector. Now it's been 20 good years. I think the government is well aware about these facts, but we have been sitting on them and not making any action apart from waving off. What are we giving as a market indication? That please go on doing defaults, and then we now create a new definition of willful defaulters. Please, if you really know that the person is defaulting, you know there is a theft which is taking place, and you keep quiet on top of it, the government keep quiet, whichever government came into power, you waive off their loans time again and again. The chairmen of banks are given new positions. They are given crores of rupees as bonuses for their companies. Naturally, what are you telling both the banker and the people who are trying to fraud the people's money is that you will be rewarded well if you do this kind of an activity. And this is where it had become a system which could not be broken beyond control. Please understand, if even a person like me takes a 1 crore loan, and if I am unable to pay one installment, bankers would be there on my doorstep and would actually put me into a public domain framework where I will be abused extensively. If that is the case, if a company takes a loan, there is a nomination which is there. They are supposed to file returns. How could even the subcommittees clear a 500 crore loan again when they were not meeting the requirements? Right. 40 crores of FDRs which are kept for this Videocon were also released by the bank despite the fact that they must keep them. Now this was clearly a nexus which was taking place between the organization and the bank, and it is not possible that not only Chanda Kochhar as the MD or even the board members are unaware of such acts. The board members are supposed to be responsible, as we clearly saw in the case of Satyam. When Satyam scam took place, all the board members were made responsible and not one. And I think it is a question which needs to be tackled before all board members and not only Chanda Kochhar. The case with Chanda Kochhar is of quid pro quo, where there is a question of kickbacks coming not directly to her but to her relatives, which has been the case with some bankers around the world as well.
Yes.
Now, last 2 or 3 years, we have seen large number of actions taken internationally and within the country. And I must commend this government has taken this bold step of actually not only stopping this waiver business which is taking place and taking some actions against the bank officials, especially the top echelons, to actually bring the books to account. But the question here is, first we need to get this money back. Putting people behind bars does not help. I remember very interestingly when Harshad Mehta was picked up way back in 1991, now he said, give me my diary, and he told the CBI at that time, give me my diary, I will actually bring the money on table, let the money come in the market. He was already in custody. But since it was with the police, and the police looks at a criminal as a criminal, not as a financial criminal, and as a result there was no financial into it, so they put him behind bars. The money never came to the market. The first important question is, this money must be brought back into the banking system, must be brought to book, and after that you may want to penalize them, you want to put them behind bars. That is a secondary issue, because it is the people's money, the taxpayers' money, my money, your money, which is actually going to ultimately take care of this loan. If you put them behind bars, nothing happens for 7 years, 10 years, they go behind bars and they say, thank you very much, I don't need to pay back this money anymore. And we have seen this happen around the world. So important question before us here is, whatever may be the case, can we bring this money back on table so that people's money doesn't get eroded?
Mr. Charan Singh, would you like to take on that question? Can we bring this money back? Take a look at the amount of bank frauds that have happened in the year 2017-2018. What came to light were over 900 cases amounting to almost 41,000 crore rupees. Of course, the large chunk of it was the Nirav Modi PNB scam. But even in 2016-2017, there were 5,000 cases amounting to almost 24,000 crore rupees. Can we get this money back?
Look, this is a very imaginative situation. Which money are we talking of? Where did it go? Where do you want to bring it back to? It's already in circulation, right? So just thinking that the money has evaporated, all that is, I don't think very true. It is in circulation. It is somewhere here or there. It is moving around. The major issue is when people like Harshad Mehta said, give me the diary, I'll bring the money. What money? When now you are saying that this much money is gone, where is that money? The point is very clear that what has happened has happened. There is a fraud. It has been brought to the notice. Now what we need to do looking forward is that this should not happen again.
No, but hasn't that money gone into? Hasn't that money gone into foreign bank accounts? No, Mr. Singh, hasn't that money gone into foreign bank accounts? Hasn't that money gone into fancy jets and fancy properties across the whole world, including this country, into the luxury living of many of these corporate giants? I mean, what do you mean the money is in circulation? It's definitely not coming into my pocket in any sense.
See, look, I'm not being emotional.
Want to add one thing.
I'm being very analytical. Whenever you say that this money is gone or that money is gone, Nirav, you took many names. All the point that I'm trying to make is, yes, that money has been missing. But if you are going to tell me bring it on table, it's not going to be as easy as Harshad Mehta was trying to make it. Bring me my diary and I'll bring the money. I was very much in the Reserve Bank at that point of time, and I had heard that the JPC sat, many things happened. So this is a fact which we will have to accept, that there has been a siphoning, there has been a fraud, and now that fraud has to be accounted for. That's exactly what the investigating agencies are attempting to do.
Okay, point taken.
The point that I'm trying to make is,
yes, yes, I'll just come back to you in just a bit, because Ravindra Gupta also had an answer to this question of ours. Can we get the money back? Yes, Ravindra Gupta, please. Yes, and then I'll go across to Mr. Vedjan.
Now, Harshad Mehta is a past. It is 3 decades earlier. But now present situation is that 14 big corporates are holding 4 lakh crore of the NPAs out of 9 lakh crores. So present situation is that we have to recover that money. And in fact, the Supreme Court has given the direction to the Reserve Bank of India in the December 2015 to disclose the name of the willful defaulters.
Yes.
Why those names have not yet been declared? And in fact, the policy of the name and shame is there. That Harshad Mehta is a past, but it's basically
But
the situation.
Mr. Ravindra Gupta, I think what
all those people, those have taken the
what Charan Singh is saying is that money is gone. If there is a telecom company that has 50,000 crores of debt, they've already put up the towers and not made the money out of it. That money is gone. You can't expect that 50,000 crore is going to come back. So what do you do now?
No. In fact, look, if you see that assets of these big corporates are still available and that need to be recovered.
Okay.
Basically, that process, the legal process should be fast, and at least the bank should given the chance to recover that money, and they can take over these assets of that. Those can be sold in the market, and the money can be recovered so fast. During this NCLT, so some recoveries are made. But the banks are again losing a huge amount in the shape of the haircut.
Yeah.
But that money is coming back from these big corporates. That again, that there is a need to review the entire legal framework of the country, that these corporates, big corporates, those have taken the big chunk of this bank borrowings, that need to be bring back. And this is quite possible. There is a need.
I have another aspect very quickly I want to cover.
Policies.
Yes, which is the accountability of this ecosystem, not just the banking guy who's sitting in that branch or even the banking executive who's leading that business, but the others who are part of this ecosystem. There are independent directors. There are non-executive directors who sit on these boards. The job of an independent director is to ensure that questions are asked about the way the business is being done. But every time there is a big corporate scam, we realize and we see that the independent directors have failed in doing their job. There are auditors whose job it is to ensure that these scams don't happen, that if there is a wrongdoing, there is a mismatch in the books, that is called out. But time and again we've seen those auditor reports are of no use. Sometimes they raise a red flag, nobody really does anything about it, and life goes on. So Mr. Jain, one minute please. Mr. Jain, do you think that there needs to be a larger accountability? Why is it? Is it because each single person is on boards of 25, 30 different companies that nobody is even bothering? They just take the remuneration and don't bother to see what's happening in the business?
Give me a few minutes. Let me clarify two issues. With the one issue which came up earlier, the recovery of the money and how to chase that money also. That was a very good suggestion, and for that we should think it about dispassionately. Whenever anything goes wrong and we need to examine the facts, where the money has gone, we can carry out a forensic audit, where there is a diversion, where there is a mismanagement, where there is a change in economic condition, whether there has been actual losses, and we need to segregate. And the first step should be to go after the money and recover it at the earliest and hand it over to the person, to the bank which it actually belongs to. That action should be very quick action, and in that regard, the Satyam episode and thereafter the action taken are the three very good example how the money can be retrieved and given back to the people who are the real owner of that money. Now, coming to the second question which you have raised, whether the independent director and the board management should be accountable, you must appreciate that to say that the institution of independent director and independent person and board will not be good. There are large number of companies which are still operating, they are doing good business, and there are few cases which are coming up. So we must assume that these are the exceptional cases, and in other cases, the board of directors, the independent directors are doing their good job, and that's why these things are being not happening, and the system of corporate governance has improved. But still, there are scope for further improvement. These are the cases where I believe there is a conspiracy. That's why these type of things have happened, and there is some negligence on the part of some director sitting on the board or in the management. That's why the things are happened. So one must make a distinction in the exception and should not use it as an ordinary rule that everywhere it is happening and every independent director is failing.
I would disagree with you, Mr. Jain, because in a lot of other cases we've seen it's actually the shareholder services, empowerment companies who are actually coming out and raising the red flag. You're not seeing it in too many companies. companies. We don't know. Maybe there are more frauds which are happening which are not being detected. I'm sure if I had time, Mr. Charan Singh would have told us a bit more about that kind of fraud detection that should be taking place. But I'm completely out of time. So I'm going to thank my panelists for joining us for now. Though this conversation is far from over, we will hold more debates about accountability within the banking system and how to break down this nexus which happens between corporate India, the big giants with the huge money bags, the big banks, the auditors, the independent directors, all of whom fail to actually stop this kind of scam from happening. So that is a larger conversation that we will continue to have as we get you more details. But the fact of the matter is, viewers, that we don't have enough checks and balances. If the top executive and the boss of a private sector bank is able to carry this out, then think what must be happening at every small single level. Like one of our panelists pointed out, right now the debt of these big companies runs into lakhs of crores of rupees. And if they've been given a long rope, is it because of their great relationships with these bankers? Are there more quid pros that exist there? Perhaps there is a need for a larger cleanup. There is a need for a larger investigation, not just of the public sector banks, which is happening right now, but also of the private sector banks now. Something to think about, and we'll carry the conversation forward. For now, it's a wrap on this debate.